With so many property types out there, which is the best one to make you money? So let's go through some different types. So first of all, we've got commercial properties. Now, commercial properties could be pubs, offices, industrial, anything that's outside of residential, if you like. The most common use class is B1A. So B1A is office. So when you search for a use classes, what's the property used for? And often it'll be something like this. You're walking through town and it's these blocks of offices. I realize as I'm drawing this up, that doesn't look like a block of offices at all, but bear with me. And then the reason people invest in these is to convert them to residential. I'm not even going to try and draw that, okay? Now, it's great. It's a great way of making money, but it's also one of the slowest ways. So there's two ways of doing this. You've got straight commercial investment, which might be that office, which I'm not going to redraw for you. And people buy it and then they get long-term tenants. And the reason people love this as an investment is because of something called FRI leases. FRI is full repairing and insuring. Essentially, you get a long-term tenant, such as me in this office that you can see here, and we are a long-term tenant and we will sign a full repairing and insuring, which means that we're very likely to stay between 5 and 10 years, maybe longer if we can expand in here. But ultimately, when we do leave, we have to pay for dilapidations. We have to pay the DLAPs, which essentially is paying for everything to get back to square one. Now, whilst I myself don't invest in commercial offices, right now it's just not really my thing. It is a very safe and fairly consistent income for most investors, usually for people more experienced. A more simplified version of this is mixed use property, and you'll hear it called uppers and downers. So a typical one, another masterful building right here, is, let's say this downstairs is an office, or sometimes you'll see it like a salon or a newsagent, whatever it is, and then upstairs people usually split it into two flats. And this is mixed use. So what they'll do is they'll find this whole sort of, imagine you're walking down, maybe not city centre, just outside of it, and you've got a retail unit, and they've got this extra storage space. Like you see it, don't you? When you walk through town, you've got these buildings that really utilise the bottom because it's prime, it's got people walking through, and then they've basically just got some cardboard boxes up above. But the problem is, we now have something in production, and it's been around for over a decade, called JIT production, just-in-time production. And so people don't need to have loads of inventory anymore. And then again, because of the space that's needed in the UK, we're in a massive housing shortage. The government made it a lot easier to buy these retail units or these commercial units and then convert them into residential use. Great way of making money. However, two things: you need to have the right knowledge, you need to get educated properly in this, and of course it's a longer time frame. When you're buying this, doing the conversion, because it would be considered a conversion, and getting the money in, you're talking 9 to 12 months to make that happen. Next, great strategy. You can tell exactly what that is. Vacant land. All right? Land with nothing on. So, I'm not going to try and draw a farmer's tractor or anything like that. Don't know why he spoke like that. Don't know why I'm still talking like that. Right, so we've got empty land at the back of the farmers. What the fuck is wrong with me? So we've got a farmer, and often they come with a lot of land, right? Now, what you can do on this is you can put in offers on land subject to satisfactory planning. So subject to planning often is the thing. So we'll see this land, and then suddenly you will see loads of digging going on, and then suddenly a big block of apartments is on there, right? Or a block of houses that's going through. Now, often what happens on this is you mix these land offers in with something called a lease option. So often what we do is you put an option on a piece of land to control it. And by the way, if you're wanting to learn more about this stuff, hit the subscribe. I've got videos on everything that I'm speaking through right now to help you. But lease option on the land, you'll then get planning on the land. And just so we're clear on what planning is, it gives you the right to build what you've told them you want to build on it. Fairly obvious, but if you didn't. And suddenly, that land isn't this bit of purple grass anymore. Sorry about the purple. It's now something that can actually add value. So now it's a development plot, not just a piece of grass. Again, great way of making money, but let's face it, big pots of cash are needed. The last one of these that I've just done, it's been over £1.6 million put into it. What? Fun, but don't do it early on. Next, you've got specialised properties. So what is a specialised property? I'm not going to try and draw these on. These are more like your niche investment opportunities. So maybe something like co-living, which is co-living is basically fancy talk for HMO, house of multiple occupancy, but usually a bit nicer where they've got like shared gyms, shared facilities, stuff like that, usually on a bigger scale. Stuff like Airbnb, Booking.com, serviced accommodation units, maybe holiday lets and things like that. Now, are they fun to do? Yes. Can they make loads of money? Yes. Will they be around in 10 years' time? No. Well, I'm not sure is probably the way to say it. Now, holiday lets, yes, probably. Service accommodation in main units, housing, I don't know. I think the government is under a lot of pressure from hoteliers, the big hotel groups. And so will they be here? I don't know. Now, if you're looking for something fun and exciting, great, but have you got your foundations right first? Now, I'm a big believer that when you're in any business, you need the most solid foundations that you can get, so you know you can muck around, have fun, and if it goes really well, great, and if it doesn't go so well, not a big problem. You've got your foundations there. So specialised properties are fun. Back to my favourite, boring vanilla buy-to-lets, and this is the last one, residential properties. And you'll notice I've got Target written down the side of the page here, because I'm going to show you exactly what to look for in boring vanilla buy-to-lets. And by the way, if you're getting value from this video, it helps out a lot if you hit that subscribe button. And to thank you for everyone that wants to invest in their education this year, I'm going to give each and every one of you a free one-to-one strategy session with my team. If you want that, we're going to have to cap it at some point, but first come, first serve. Put education in the comments. We'll send you a link, fill in your details, and we'll help you map out the strategy that's right for you. And if we can help you get there, then great, we'll talk about making that happen. Education in the comments. Let's get back to this. So we've got boring vanilla buy-to-let properties, and we break it. We've trademarked this system called the Target system, and we buy under Target and our investors. We've got a deal packaging business. We do about 200 completions a year right now on residential. All of them fit into this, so it's a decent framework for you to work from. So number one is the type of property. I will only buy 2 to 4 bed freehold houses. Now, if you're watching this from central London, I get it. You're going to have to change the rule on this one a little bit because everywhere is flats. However, if you're in an average location, I will only buy a 2 to 4 bed because it's families, houses because values go up a lot faster than apartments or flats, and freehold because if you don't know, flats, you don't actually own the building. You're really leasing the opportunity for a while. So freehold is when you own the ground and you own the air above it. And if I'm going to buy a house for 100 grand plus, you better believe I want to own the ground underneath it. Next is area. So when I'm looking at areas, I want something that's got investments going on. I want it established. I want people that are going in this area and wanting to live. So I'm going to look at things like how much is somebody earning versus the purchase price? What's the tenure of property in the area? What's the crime rate in the area? And one of the most important ones is schools, specifically with good or outstanding Ofsted reports. It is a great indication of the type of tenant you're going to get and the capital growth on the area. R is for regeneration. So I want to make sure there's regeneration in the area. When there's I'm not talking about the house down the road is doing the development on it. I mean, how much planning is going on in the area? The more people that are choosing to extend their homes in the area, the better. Because that's going to cost so much more in terms of cash, by the way, than just buying another house in a different area. And so the people that are willing to do that, they want to stay in the area, restricting the supply. When demand is higher than supply, prices go up. And you can get that two ways: by restricting supply, people regenerating their own properties, or increasing the demand. When there's big developments going on in the area, such as in Leeds, we've got the South Bank development, it's not just houses, it's new roads, schools, other complexes going in, new jobs. And a great example of that is just outside of Doncaster, where there's this massive redevelopment going on, creating 2,500 new jobs, which is going to attract people to the area more than is there right now, therefore gentrifying the area, the wealth goes up. G is for growth. The long-term capital growth in the UK is 7.9%. Now, is that every single year? No, not at all, but it is a decent amount of growth over the long term. Now, what we're looking for is areas that the areas and the stuff that's going on is manipulating the growth. So these are things like hospitals, these are things like motorways, infrastructure, logistics. Has the government signed off on it being an investment zone? So that's a new thing in the UK. And a lot of different things that end up going into there. We actually have about 20 different pieces of information that point towards the long-term predictability of growth. And again, if you're liking this information, you're like, actually, I want to invest in myself, and you're ready to back yourself, put education in the comments. We can talk through some of those points on the one-to-one strategy call. Education, we'll send you a link, you do the rest. Next is existing. Okay, existing or established. And what I mean by that is I'm a big believer that the past can predict the future. Now, just because it's happened in the past, it doesn't guarantee the future. But much like property prices in the UK, we've got almost 1,000 years of evidence, and yet people still believe property prices can't keep going this way. It's like, yeah, people have said that. Like, look at some newspapers from 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It was the same thing. And yes, it's mind-boggling to think in 20 to 30 years the average property is going to be £1 million. It is. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's just not. Okay, that's the way capital gains works, capital appreciation and inflation works. Think about 50 years ago where the average property was £1,900. Imagine telling them the average price would be 300,000. They'd go, you are crazy. Or even 100,000. So the reason I like existing is it's established. There's a history there. There's development there. We know what's there. We know what tenants were in there. We know what they paid. We can see the capital growth through time. We know what's happening in the area. We know what happened when it had the growth 10 years ago. All of this is building a picture for us to base a prediction on. And no prediction is guaranteed, but if we've got past evidence, then we can make some future predictions. Do not buy off-plan properties. Seriously, do not buy off-plan properties. Not the video for it, but if there is an area where it's like, you know, like the PPI, was it PPI claims? The PPI insurance claims, I can guarantee you in the property sector, when there is the big claim thing in our industry, it will be off-plan property sellers. Mark my words. Finally, it's the tenant type. So I am not saying, say for example, as a council tenant, LHA, local housing allowance. It's not about, oh, you must be working in a job, you must be doing that. Some of the best tenants I've ever had are council tenants, by the way. Really grateful for the home you're providing or house you're providing. They make it a home. They intend to stay there for as long as possible. And as long as you look after them, right, they look after your house and they look after you by paying you on time every single month. But it is about being able to attract great tenants. And these are tenants that are looking to stay there for a long term. And this kind of looks back to what we look for in the area. But ultimately, we're looking for a tenant that is going to pay a decent rate, not massively under the market, and look after the property well. So that's the strategy that I have. Let me know what strategy you look for, because I look for these just as a framework. So type of property, area, regeneration, growth, existing or established properties, and a great tenant type. But you might target something else. Ultimately, what's really important is for you to pick your type of property you want to invest in, have a framework on how you approach this, and then stop procrastinating. You don't wait to buy property, you buy property and wait. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, then start backing yourself. Make this year the big year. Don't just be watching. I know some of you have been watching my videos for years, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. And if you want to take action right now, put education in, have a one-to-one call with my team. I'll send you a link so you can fill in your details. And hey, best case scenario, we end up working together and I will personally be coaching you on how you can build your portfolio this year and build that six-figure income. Worst case scenario, decide you don't want to work with us, but you leave with a step-by-step guide that you can go away and implement yourself. As I said, put education below. Hopefully you got value from this video. If you're new to the channel, you want to find out more, make sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell. Hit the like if you did get value, and I'll see you in the next video.